Well, thank you, everyone. It's terrific to be here tonight at George Washington University. And I do want to underscore what a privilege it is to be working with the Pulitzer Center on this project. They're funding and sponsoring some amazing work, and it really, I think that some of the topics that are coming out of the Pulitzer Center's foundation these days are just some of the best work that's being done in any media. I became interested in the topic of child labor years ago, actually, when I took pictures of child soldiers in Central America and later on in Angola in Southern Africa. And ever since those days, I've sort of had it kicking around in my head that I wanted to do a longer term project on child labor. And last December, I sort of took the plunge and sort of started doing a lot of research and initiated a project in the Philippines, in the Philippine gold mines. Again, aimed at, and I specifically wanted to look at child labor. Why the Philippines? Well, the Philippines, they really are a world player in the production of gold. It's surprising, they're such a small nation, but they rank 18th in total production worldwide. And the numbers of child laborers that produce a lot of this gold is staggering when you think about the per capita. One of the biggest challenges, that I had on this was that of access. I mean, this is a very difficult story. Nadia can probably concur on this. It's a very difficult story, as we say, to get a lens on. And I really didn't want to leave home until I was quite certain that I was going to be able to make some powerful and meaningful pictures. But out of a lot of research, I had contacts with the International Labor Organization in Geneva and some of their affiliate NGOs in Manila. So, through a lot of back and forth and literally a couple of months of, on again, off again, I was able to get access to some areas, some really remote mining areas where child labor existed. The Spanish conquistadors, they called the Philippine Islands the islands of gold. And, literally you can take a spadeful of sand from any given beach, any given river, any given stream, and you can pull gold straight, out of the earth. And by recent estimates, 2011 estimates, there are 12,000 children laboring in the Philippine gold mines these days. This is an image that sort of shows the typical activities on the surface of the mines. The Philippines have deep mines, and then they have activity called alluvial mining, where they use running water and streams to extract gold. But the little bitty children, typically will be involved in, manual work and manual tasks that involve shoveling. Panning is a big deal, and hauling ore sacks. And as they get older, they sort of make their way literally underground. This little boy is probably about 8 or 9 years old, and he's working about 40 feet down in a pit 6 or 8 hours a day. He's not in school. This is how he spends his day, and he's swinging a 3-pound hammer with a piece of rebar to extract gold ore. And what they do, they just keep digging. They literally plant a shovel or a pick, and then they just keep following the ore veins as they go down. Now this, I talked about access. Well, another challenge on this story, I mean, this was a really physically demanding story to do. This is at the bottom of a 4 or 5 foot shaft. If you can imagine turning a football field on end, it's 400 feet straight down. And I was following this boy on the right. He's about, he said he was 17, I don't know. He sort of looks like he's 16 or 17. And he was working with this older man who had been mining most of his adult life. So I was following him. We kept getting, deeper and deeper and deeper into this pit. And all of a sudden I heard the sound of rushing water. So, I obviously don't speak Filipino, but, they were very concerned about it. And then people started laughing, so I thought, that's probably okay. But I wanted to see what was going on, so I went on down another 30 or 40 feet, and they just jumped into this pit, up to their necks, because there was a really good gold vein there, so they wanted to keep sampling it. And what had happened, the sump pump that was keeping the water out of the, out of the pit, the groundwater that's tended to seep in, had failed. So they had another crew working on the pump, and they were trying to get the last little bit of ore before the water came up to the top of the cavern we were in. So I made this set of pictures, and then I left, But they were fine. They thought it was pretty cool that I was down there. But back on the surface again, this little boy's, he's probably 8 or 9 years old, probably weighs about 60 or 70 pounds, and all day long, maybe 100 times a day, he is shoveling ore into this sluice box, back and forth, 100 yards at a time. Nine-year-old boy carrying a 40-pound sack of gold ore. What they do, they package the ore, at the lowest level, and then they have to sort of hoof it up the hill where it's deposited, where trucks take it to gold processing facilities, not too far away. So that's the main job. These kids are incredibly strong for their size, but but with that, it really pays a toll on their bodies. This little boy was 5 years old, and his sack, as you can see, is not filled very full, but that's what he can carry. So they're carrying what they can. The child on the left. It's a 4-year-old girl, and she was like an expert at panning. I watched her for a couple hours, made a lot of photographs of her, and she was really proud of her skills. And her mother was working alongside her all day long, so she worked with her mother, starting at 8 o'clock in the morning and worked until sundown. Here she's taking ore chunks. And pushing them through this sieve-like device, which breaks the rocks down, and ultimately they reclaim the gold. Some of the most rich and intense gold ore comes from clay, which is 40 or 50 feet down, below the topsoil. And what they do when they get this, they mix it with water, and then they use their feet and their hands to break it into smaller chunks for processing. This is a pan, a large pan that they use to mix mercury and gold ore that's been fine quality gold ore. And what mercury does, it binds the gold and helps, in the extraction process. It's a very efficient way, but it's also very, very deadly and very dangerous to the environment. If you look at the bottom of the frame, you'll see water. This was taking place, mostly around a running river. If you look at the statistics on how much mercury is dumped into the watershed worldwide, it's astounding. It's hundreds of tons around the world, and it all finds its way into the rivers, into the oceans, and ultimately, into the food chain. Here's the same gold pan. This miner, he was probably in his early 20s, I guess. He'd been mining continuously, he told me, for 5 or 6 years. But this is at the end of his day, so he's finished. He's been panning all day long using the mercury in the river. probably by the time that he quit and is, taking his bath there, he has probably lost half of the mercury he started out with, downstream. And this is what a mercury amalgam looks like. What happens typically is that they take that blue pan and they'll take this slurry and pan with the mercury. It generally takes a couple of hours, and ultimately the mercury attracts the little tiny gold flecks. They force that through a nylon sieve and squeeze it out, and what you have left is this little piece of mercury that is, it looks silver, but it's probably about 90% pure gold. And then they will take that and they will melt the mercury using a high temperature gasoline torch, leaving pure gold. This was another reason that I really wanted to go to the Philippines. This is called compressor mining, and it's actually the most dangerous, it's considered the most dangerous mining activity on the planet. And it's quite simple. The water table in certain areas of the Philippines is actually just 5 or 6 inches below grade. Yet the gold ore in certain areas on the coast are really, really fertile. So what they will do is start digging a pit, and then when it gets deeper and deeper and deeper, the miners go to the bottom of the pits and they are fed oxygen or air through small diesel-powered compressors from the surface. Well, they can only go down 40 feet because, they can't breathe any deeper than that under those circumstances. But they'll go down there, wedge themselves in at the bottom of these literally trash can-sized shafts for up to 2 hours at a time. And 10, 15, 20 feet above them, the walls will collapse in on them, and they, of course, they die. I was at one of these mining areas, and the person who agreed to take me in and show me this was really, really concerned. He's very nervous and said, what's wrong? And I was thinking it was going to be an access issue. And he said, well, my translator was telling me, he said, no, he thinks you want to go down in there. And I said, no, I can't take pictures. It's dark anyway. And he said, well, that's good, because he says that whenever the walls collapse in on you, we have to leave you there, and your family's going to be very upset. So I assured him that I didn't want to go into the compressor mine. This boy was probably an older teenager, and he had just surfaced after about an hour at the bottom. He's really distressed. If you look at his ears, he's got mud impacted in his ears, and totally exhausted. And you can see the relative size of the shaft there. It's literally about 3 feet square. This little boy is panning. You can see the mining pits down in the bottom of the frame there. And his job was to shuttle back and forth from the pits, filling as much of that little sack as he could with ore, and then going up to the top. And he had been working, most of the day. This was taken, I don't know, maybe early afternoon. And he was just so exhausted and so tired. And he came up, he got about halfway up this 100-foot up to this 100-foot ridge there. And he kind of stopped to breathe, and his friends up on the top started like pecking little rocks at him and, screaming at him to hurry up, hurry up. And he was just so exhausted, tired, and he just, burst into tears. He saw me coming, and it really was just one of those convergences. I didn't make him cry, but I don't think I did. But he was really stoic whenever I came up to him, and I kind of smiled and started making some pictures, and his little lip was just kind of trembling. He was really trying to be, kind of like the little cool guy, but I was able to get 2 or 3 frames. Incidentally, that lake in the background is, Nadia talked about cyanide. It's polluted and dead from years and years of runoff from some cyanide treatment areas and mercury. I did this video production and out of some of this work, and I made the point that, most people would not realize that, say, the gold in their wedding bands was mined from little children. Okay, thank you.